Dudes, what's up? Don B from the Don B podcast. Check out Atheist Edge. They're all over YouTube. I watch them. I watch every episode. And I'm not lying to you. I would never lie to you. I just lied to you.
Whenever we ask devout believers to explain horrendous human suffering and evil, their instinct, their knee-jerk reaction, is to defend God, whom they've been taught is loving, attentive, powerful, and in control. We hear the common cliches. God works in mysterious ways. God has a bigger plan that we don't know about. They've heard these excuses from priests and preachers since they were kids, so it's important to hold on to the belief that God is the kindly man upstairs, the cosmic buddy, take it to the Lord in prayer, who knows if even a sparrow falls to the ground. The Lord is my shepherd. That's the God people want. But this cherished image is based on a very selective reading of the Bible, that God is nasty, vindictive, and imposes great suffering on purpose. Well, that's in the Bible too. Yes, in both the Old and New Testaments. So if you're devoted to the Bible, you've got a problem. This is not hard to see. I suspect that the book of Isaiah doesn't get much traffic even among the pious, so this verse goes unnoticed. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. That's the King James Version. Other translations replace the word evil with woe or calamity. But there really is no way to sanitize the story of Noah and the flood. People got to be so wicked, so the story goes, that God drowned everyone on earth. And weren't even a few good people? Well, he drowned everyone except one family, Noah and his family. So how many babies and toddlers were killed in that flood? And all the animals were killed off too, because humans were sinful. Well, except for those animals that Noah managed to herd onto the ark. Let's face it, this is not the God that most people want. Even earlier, according to Genesis, God was vindictive. As Eve's punishment, he said, I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Yet you shall desire your husband, and he shall rule over you. That's the Bible's explanation for the pain of childbirth. God ordered it. That's another common pious explanation for our suffering and evil in general. God gave us free will. Humans have done awful things and have brought so much suffering on themselves, so don't blame God. But there are so many ways that we suffer that cannot be blamed on free will. The suffering is built in. It's built into creation. Come on, own it. It's the way God set things up. God did indeed create these evils, and let me list a few. High infant and child mortality. Until humans invented modern medicine, devised the microscope and discovered microbes and medicines, for thousands and thousands of years, high infant mortality was just the way things were. So much grief and anguish, so much suffering for humans. And women had to keep on having babies to replace those lost. This was the way things were, set up by who else? God himself. It was not a good plan. There are thousands of genetic diseases caused by glitches in our DNA, and thus so much horrible suffering, disfigurement, and early death. This is one of the horrors of human existence. We can't blame genetic diseases on human sins, that is, exercising our free will. God created biology. It's his fault. Consider mental illness as well. In the ancient world, mental illness was thought to be the work of demons. But now we know different. There are glitches in the brain, chemical malfunctions. Again, over thousands of years, so much human agony. which included eventually the invention of insane asylums. Mental illness cannot be blamed on free will. Some Christians think that evolution is dead wrong. But evolution might help get God off the hook for genetic diseases and mental illness. Blame all this suffering on the imperfections, the things that go wrong in evolution. Some Christians have even said that God set up evolution as a way for creation to unfold. But that doesn't work so well either. God didn't foresee the cruelties that come with evolution. Consider this too. Was it very smart for God to put humanity on a planet that is so very dangerous? There are earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes, and all sorts of other violent weather. Putting us here was all part of God's plan? Yes, there's so much beauty in nature, but that's not the whole story. Someone once imagined God inventing the ocean. He told an angel, "Put water everywhere." And the angel was delighted. "Oh, that way, if they get thirsty," God interrupted, "make it undrinkable." Some preachers, especially famous televangelists, have made God out to be even worse. God sends all sorts of natural disasters to punish humans for gay marriage and abortion. This is indiscriminate targeting. This is indiscriminate slaughter, killing off so many people who have nothing to do with gay marriage or abortion. There's that old favorite hymn, "This is my Father's world," as if that were a good thing. If that's true, then God is the inventor of high infant mortality, genetic diseases, mental illness, and doesn't seem to care that natural disasters keep hammering away at us. It's really hard to make this God look good, no matter how many feel-good Bible verses Christians come up with. Most of the gods humans have invented over the millennia have fallen out of fashion. Of course, Christianity has 2,000 years of momentum and a huge bureaucracy to keep it going. But we really don't need the God of Christian theology to help us figure out the world. Isaiah 45:7 should warn us off. This God created evil.
We were talking earlier about talking snakes and talking donkeys. This is Quran 1924, Quran 30, and 27:18. Palm trees, infants, and ants can talk.
Sounds like a made-up story.
I mean, in fact, look up in any dictionary, the very definition of a fable almost always involves examples where animals are talking. Like that's the literary genre we call a fable, involves talking animals. And what'd you say, a talking tree? Yeah, we've got that in the very first book of the Bible, or is it? It's actually the second book. Moses is talking to the burning bush, right? And it's not only burning and not being consumed, but it's speaking to him.
And infants and ants. That's interesting.
During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church figured out a particularly underhanded way to make a boatload of money. Faithful Christians would pay bishops exorbitant fees, and in return, the clergy would bless them with indulgences, pardons for serious sins. An indulgence either took the form of an outright get-out-of-jail-free card or a reduction in the amount of time one's soul would have to spend in purgatory.
If you swear to Allah 5 times that your wife has committed adultery, she is guilty. Wives are not allowed to accuse their husbands. Of course not. We once again come to, it never ceases to amaze me that when religious men find themselves unable to control their sexual desires, they blame women and want to put restrictions on women so they don't have to deal with a problem that is clearly their own. When I was a kid, it was said if you go into a dark room with a mirror and say 3 times, "I believe in Mary Worth," she would appear to you. Mary Worth is a comic strip character that originated in the 1930s and was still in some papers until 2011. Frankly, I never understood why anyone would want her to appear. Her strip was a soap opera strip, and I found it boring. The ability to appear when summoned has been attributed to other characters as well. The big question that I have is, if you swear to your wife's guilt to Allah 5 times and she was actually innocent, does she become guilty because you swore to it, or does it cause your wife to go and commit adultery? On a more serious note, swearing to God is still an issue in this country. A Facebook friend recently posted a question of whether a school board member who swore her oath on a Dr. Seuss book actually took a valid oath. She did. Swearing on a Bible is not required for anything. But the issue that I run into continually is courts here still want us to swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And while I'm not offended by the request, I think it undermines the oath to have to swear to a non-existent entity. I might as well swear, so help me leprechauns. I haven't testified in a hearing for about 2 years now, so I've never had it come up, but I intend to ask for a secular oath the next time it does. But I do know that if I swear to God 5 times, He's not going to appear.
You don't even trust people in lab coats who have devoted their lives to following the evidence, no matter where it leads them. But you unquestionably believe those rolling on the floor speaking in tongues. Well, as a deconverting Christian to atheism, I can tell you I personally have never encountered anyone speaking in tongues. I've heard about it. Although it's referenced in the Bible as a gift, I don't even know what to say. If it's real or is it not? But some religions don't even believe in Western medicine, medical care, blood infusions, transfusions, for surgery or critically wounded. So why is Western medicine rejected? I think anyone who has watched a family member or a child suffer through cancer treatments, challenge Western medicine because it's big business. Perhaps one affects the other.
If there was a God and it wrote a book, I would expect it to be perfect in every way. Clearly written, accessible to everyone, easily understandable, promoting peace and love. If there were no God, I would expect humans to create lots of books and then they say they were written by a God. I would expect the books to be full of internal contradictions, and the books would not agree with each other at all. They would contain a haphazard collection of personal stories, letters, vague parables, and admonitions. The stories and instructions would be open to multiple conflicting interpretations. They would contain good moral teachings, but they would also have passages of violence, intolerance, and hatred. Which scenario lines up with reality?
Which is a better put together story? The Bible or Murder on the Orient Express? Both are novels. One is just more coherent than the other is. It's got more of a logic train through it. Yeah, it's got twists and turns, but better written.
And if either one of those were divinely inspired, think how much better they would be too. Both of those books you mentioned were written by humans.
Let me make something clear. I'm highly skeptical of the claim that a 6th century illiterate merchant from Mecca received any kind of divine revelation. He was just a normal mammal, like you and me. I understand much of the commentary on the man and his invisible friend will be perceived as insulting, but let it be known, I'm not being provocative for its own sake. I truly believe the teaching of this dipshit and the Cultians fabricated are a direct threat to every human on the planet. There's an obvious contradiction here, it seems, where Jim says he's not being provocative for his own sake, then follows up with a gratuitous insult. I believe that's just a point of style. Under Sharia, anyone who insults Muhammad, Allah, or Islam is to be put to death. Anyone who desecrates the Quran or commits an act of blasphemy is to be killed. My first thoughts on this, given the extreme nature of the scripture, is that it is similar to Christian thought, where there are certain verses which are not interpreted with the same aggressiveness as perhaps they were in older times. In researching this, it does appear that there is a bit of latitude in interpretation as practiced in the Islamic-controlled government world. So, although these scriptures do exist, it does seem as though this particular act is not universally applied. However, plainly, it does occur, and far too often, as we've seen with attacks from people merely for expressing their opinions on the Quran.